I never imagined there'd come a day when I'd be turned away from the very house I grew up in lit alone on Easter Sunday. But it only took 3 words from my own mother to turn me into a stranger. No hug, no smile, not even a soft glance. Just a thorny whisper that cut through my chest like a razor. Don't come in. I stood frozen on the tiled porch, clutching a bottle of fine red wine and a basket of handmade chocolate eggs, the kind of gifts that used to make Mom's face light up with joy. But now, that same woman nearly shut the door on me like I was a prowler, not the daughter she raised for 28 years. I forced a little smile, hoping this was some cruel joke. "You're kidding, right?" I said, my voice dry as dust. She shook her head. "No, Rachel. Not today. Everyone's having a good time." She hesitated, eyes flicking nervously behind her as if someone might overhear. Then she added, "Sienna said if you came, she wouldn't come inside. I didn't need to ask anything else." Sienna, me half-sister, had been setting the tone of this household ever since Mom remarried. With her picture-perfect blonde curls and sugar-coated voice that dripped poison beneath every word, she had always known how to pull Mom's strings. She never had to share attention with men at once. From inside, I heard laughter burst out, followed by the clinking of glasses. Then came Uncle Travis' tipsy voice, "To a family that sticks together." And like clockwork, Sienna's voice chimed in, sticky sweet. "This Easter is so calm, no negativity at all." My hand tightened around the neck of the wine bottle. A cool April breeze rustled my dress, but it was nothing compared to the ice spreading through my chest. I had driven 3 hours from Oak Ridge to Willow Creek. I'd taken time off work, spent nearly $300 putting together gift baskets for the kids. I even wore the floral dress Mom once said makes your skin glow. I thought maybe, just maybe this year would be different, that I'd finally be welcomed. I was wrong. Deep down, I had always known I wasn't truly wanted. I was just the walking credit card, the invisible backbone keeping the power, water, and Wi-Fi flowing. The one who was always there, just not part of the picture. Mom looked at me again, but her eyes dodged mine. She wasn't angry, she was scared. Scared I might rattle Sienna's perfectly curated mood. Scared her precious stepdaughter might spiral again. I nodded once. "Well then, have a peaceful Easter," I said lightly, though each word felt like a blade on my tongue. "Oh, 3-1. Then I calmly reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and opened my payment app. My fingers moved with steady grace. Electricity, cancel payment. Water, cancel payment. Wi-Fi, disable, auto-renew. From inside the house, the lights flickered. A voice shouted, "What the hell? The Wi-Fi's out." Sienna, of course. For the first time in years, I looked Mom straight in the eye without blinking. "Don't expect the $3,200 this month," I said softly. "I'm not your utility company." Mom reached toward me, either to stop me or to hold on to some scrap of pride, but I was already walking away. My shoes clicked on the wet driveway as the sun dipped low behind me. Inside that house, chaos buzzed like a beehive someone just kicked. No one followed me. No one called out, "Rachel, please don't go." No apologies. No second thoughts. And for the first time in years, I wasn't sad. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't look back. That role I used to play the daughter who endured, forgave, and waited to be loved, I ended it right there on that porch. I hadn't even reached the end of the block when I heard Sienna's shrill voice from behind. "Who the hell cut the Wi-Fi?" I didn't stop, just adjusted my rearview mirror enough to see her storming out the front door, phone in hand like a weapon, face red with fury. Mom followed closely, clutching that soft pastel scarf she always wore when trying to look like the perfect suburban matriarch. My phone buzzed in my lap. One last notification. Water service. Canceled successfully. I smiled, not out of spite, but the kind of smile you make after finally snipping a ticking bomb wire inside your own chest. Sienna screamed again, louder. This cannot be happening. But it was, and I had never felt more in control. It can't be happening. Why is everything shutting down? Sienna's voice cracked through the air like a snapped wire. I rolled down my car window slowly as I crept forward, past the narrow alley beside the house I once called home. Ask someone who's actually inside, I called out, my voice calm but cutting. Her head snapped in my direction. Her face was flushed bright red, and she clutched her phone like she might hurl it straight through the nearest window. Are you insane? There are kids here, she shouted, stomping toward the curb. They're hunting eggs. What are they supposed to do without internet? I shrugged from behind the wheel, eyes steady on her. Maybe it's time they learned how to play outside. Or better yet, maybe you can explain to them why Aunt Rachel wasn't invited this year. My mother rushed forward, her voice trembling, strained from a guilt she wasn't ready to name. Rachel, you shouldn't be doing this. It's Easter. This day it's about family being together. I laughed, hollow and dry like wind sweeping through a forgotten attic. You're really going to give me a lecture about family values after slamming the door in my face? I stared right into her, no more flinching, no more softening the blow. After letting Sienna erase me from the guest list because I'm apparently full of negative energy? Mom opened her mouth like she had something to say, an excuse, a plea, a deflection. But nothing came. Suddenly, another voice shouted from inside the house. There's no water! It was Uncle Travis, unmistakable in tone and urgency. Someone check the damn meter! I gently pressed the gas, nudging my car away from the driveway. I had just started pulling off when a white SUV burst out of the garage like a final act of defiance and slammed to a stop, blocking my path. Sienna leapt out of the driver's side like a woman possessed. She planted herself in the middle of the road, hands on her hips, eyes blazing. You don't have the right to do this, Rachel, she screamed. That's Mom's house. It's where I live. You can't just destroy everything because you're having a meltdown. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I calmly pulled out my phone and opened the payment app again. My thumb scrolled through the list of services. Netflix, cancel. Hulu, cancel. HBO Max, cancel. One by one, I ended each subscription without hesitation. Then I looked up at her and finally spoke. You think this is a tantrum? No, Sienna. I opened the car door and stepped out, the pavement cool beneath my flats. I stood taller than I had in years, not in height, but in strength. I canceled everything because I'm tired of being backstage while you get the spotlight, tired of being the family's walking debit card. And if you seriously believe I'm going to keep funding all this while you and Mom treat me like some unwanted stepchild, I took a deep breath, steady. Then you're more delusional than I thought. Sienna's mouth hung open, grasping for a response, but none came. From inside the house, a child's cry rose, followed by a clattering sound and Mom's panicked footsteps rushing back indoors. The whole scene played out like a sad, slow comedy, except no one was laughing. I got back into my car, pulled the door shut, and rolled down the window one last time. Happy Easter, I said flatly. No lights, no water, no Wi-Fi but. I'm sure you'll have plenty of positive energy, just like you wanted. Then I drove away. No hesitation, no guilt, no looking back. For the first time in my life, it felt like I'd pulled the emergency exit on a burning house I'd been forced to live in for far too long. I didn't go straight back to Oak Ridge like Id planned. Instead, I pulled into a quiet little parking lot near the Coast Sunmere Beach, a stretch of wind-kissed shoreline just west of Willow Creek. I kicked off my shoes and walked barefoot through the cold sand, letting the sound of the waves settle the tremble in my chest. The breeze wrapped around me like a question I no longer had to answer. I sat on the hood of my car, pulled out my phone again, and opened my banking app. Just numbers, right? But those numbers told the whole story. $9,842. That's how much I'd sent to support that house in the past 12 months alone. 3 years. 3 full years of quietly covering electricity, water, internet, phone bills, everything without so much as a thank you. All because my presence made Sienna uncomfortable. All because Mom didn't want to cause drama. It had all started when my dad Nathan lost his job at 56. The construction firm went under and they spiraled into debt overnight. I had just started my first full-time job in finance, filled with hope and determination. "It'll help," I said back then. "Just until Dad finds something new." That was 3 years ago. Dad was still between projects. And I'd become an ATM with no PIN code. It was supposed to be just 2 porcelain crowns. "It's not urgent," Mom had whispered over the phone one night, but I'm embarrassed to smile. So I wired her $2,400 without question. No pushback, no lecture, not even a thank you. Just a quick, "It'll pay you back soon." But in Mom's world, soon didn't mean later. It meant never. And then there was the whole mess with Sienna and her pearl-colored SUV. She didn't qualify for a loan, obviously, but that didn't stop the plan from forming. Mom called me one evening, her voice coated in syrupy concern. "Sweetheart," she cooed, "your sister really needs a safe car. Can you co-sign? Just for a year. It'll help her get approved." I agreed. Like a fool. 6 months later, I received a payment notice from the bank. 2 missed payments. Sienna had simply forgotten, and I had to cough up $1,100 to protect my credit score. I used to think this was all part of being the eldest, that sacrificing a little here and there was just what I was supposed to do. But what they wanted from me? It was endless. A pit without a bottom. The more I gave, the less I existed. And it wasn't just the money. It was the silence, the quiet way they dismissed me when they thought I wasn't listening. At the last Christmas gathering, I heard Sienna snickering behind my back. "Rachel always looks like she's about to read someone's will," she joked. "Long face, no husband, no kids, but hey, she's got money. So she's still useful." Mom had been sitting right beside her, sipping wine. She didn't defend me. She didn't flinch. All she said was, "Oh, Sienna, your sister's just tired." Yeah, I was tired, but not from work, not from helping. I was tired from being laughed at while I held up the crumbling walls they should have been helping to support. One night, not long ago, I confronted Sienna during dinner at a cozy little place called Briar's Table. "You know that lucky you don't have kids comment you made?" I said, swirling a spoon in my soup. "That's exactly why you don't feel bad calling me every time you need money." She rolled her eyes and leaned back in her chair. "Oh, please," she said with a smirk. "Don't act like some kind of martyr. You're not helping us, you're buying a sense of control." The lemonade glass in my hand trembled slightly, but I said nothing. I just smiled like the good sister, the understanding eldest. Until now, because standing on that porch on Easter, turned away like a stranger, I finally saw things clearly. I was never part of the family. I was the sponsor, the backup plan, the silent wallet. Not anymore. That night, in the glow of my phone screen, I tapped the final button, Cancel Auto Bill Pay. The lights I'd been keeping on in that house would begin to dim. The faucets would run dry. The Wi-Fi would drop. And for the first time in years, they'd have to face the consequences of the disregard they so freely handed me. I remember another Friday, just a few weeks before Easter. I had stopped by the house unexpectedly, arms full of groceries, organic oats, fresh fruits, baguettes from a little bakery I'd discovered in Maple Ridge, a place Mom used to rave about. No one knew I was coming. I'd planned to just leave the bags on the counter and head out. But as I stepped onto the porch, laughter drifted from the kitchen window. She's always wound so tight, like a violin string. Sienna's voice sliced through the air. She takes everything way too seriously. I mean, she lives alone. Who wouldn't be tense? Then came my dad's voice, Nathan's. Calm, dismissive. Probably goes a whole week without speaking to anyone. People like that? They snap easily. My pulse thundered in my ears. Then Mom chimed in, softly but with no less cruelty. Well, at least she's useful. If she wasn't, we'd have had the power cut off by now. Sienna's laugh rang out sharp and bright. Exactly. She's got money. No kids, no life. So it's only fair she helps. Dad added without hesitation, I mean, I'm still young. I've got a future. She just has her job and her account. That's it. And Mom? She didn't disagree. She didn't stop them. Just the clinking of glasses and someone calling out cheers. I staggered back, bumped into the wall of the porch, and one of the apple bags I held slipped from my arms. Fruit rolled across the tile. I didn't pick it up. I didn't say a word. I left the groceries, got in my car, and drove straight home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my apartment until 2 a.m., going through every transaction on the emergency credit card I'd once given to Mom just in case. Line after line. Each one hit like a betrayal. MacBook Pro, $1,899. 4-day meditation retreat in Clear Bend, $3,200. Luxury spa package at Riverstone Wellness, $650. Airline tickets to Palm Shore, $438 monthly health apps, $74.99 x 6 months. Every purchase had a story, and none of them involved emergencies. I cross-referenced the dates with Sienna's social posts. There she was wrapped in a linen robe, glowing under candles, captioned, "Finding peace in chaos." Self-care. That was my money, my effort, my exhaustion, and all it ever earned me was silence and side eyes. I cross-referenced the transaction list with Sienna's public Instagram posts, just to be sure. There it was. The $3,200 meditation retreat in Clear Bend, captioned with a soft filter and a fake sense of serenity. Meditation is how I find myself amidst the chaos. I felt the bile rise in my throat, not because of the money, but because of the shamelessness. That night, at exactly 11:04 p.m., I called Mom. She picked up on the first ring, like she'd been expecting it. "Did you buy a MacBook?" I asked, blunt and hollow. "Oh, that was for Sienna," she stammered. She needed it to work remotely. And the retreat? It was for her mental health. You saw how she was crying for a month, didn't you notice? I stared into the dark of my apartment. "With my money," I replied. My voice wasn't angry. It was drained like an engine sputtering out after years of overuse. "You make more than the rest of us combined, Rachel," Mom said quickly, almost like a defense rehearsed too many times. "A few thousand shouldn't mean anything to you, right? I thought you wouldn't mind." I hung up. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. I just sat in that silence, stunned, the words echoing around me like a cruel lullaby. A few thousand shouldn't mean anything to you. Not sorry. Not, we shouldn't have done that. Just entitlement pure and entitled. That night, I took a pair of scissors and sliced the secondary credit card in half. The same one I'd given her just for emergencies. I dropped it into the trash. But the cut I made inside myself? That was so easy to discard. The next evening, at 6:17 p.m., came the pounding on my apartment door. I had just poured boiling water into a mug of chamomile tea, nearly spilling the entire kettle. Through the peephole, I saw them, Mom, Dad, and Sienna, all packed together in the narrow hallway of my third-floor apartment building. Their faces were flushed. Anger? Humiliation? Embarrassment in front of the neighbors? Maybe all of it. I didn't answer right away. I let them knock. Let the tension stretch like an old violin string on the verge of snapping. Then I heard Mom's voice shriek just high enough to be heard through the wood. "Rachel, you're being ridiculous." From behind her, Dad bellowed, "We're living like it's the Stone Age." Sienna slammed her fist so hard against the door, I thought it might crack. "Open up!" she shouted. "Or are you seriously letting your own family go insane without Netflix or hot water?" I took a slow breath and opened the door just as Sienna raised her hand to knock again. She nearly stumbled forward. I kept the door half open and said coolly, "Come in, but if anyone raises their voice over 3 decibels, I'm calling the cops." There was no warmth in my voice, no fake smile, no trembling, just steel. Inside, my modest 1-bedroom apartment turned into a chaotic battlefield. Mom immediately burst into tears, curling onto the edge of the sofa like a soap opera actress. Dad paced the small space like a lion in a cage. And Sienna? Exactly what I expected. "Who do you think you are? The Queen?" she shouted. "You don't get to just cut everything off because your little feelings got hurt." I let out a bitter laugh and reached into my coat pocket, pulled out my phone, tapped the screen. "I'm not hurt," I said flatly. "I'm used." And I finally hit stop. I held the screen up. The latest billing summary glared back at them. Every charge, every auto payment. Dad winced. "You're blowing this way out of proportion, Rachel. It's not a big deal. We relied on you a little, sure, but that's because we trusted you." I arched a brow. "A little?" I repeated. "Since you lost your job in 2020, I've spent over $26,000 keeping your lives running. Mom went to the spa. Sienna floated from retreat to retreat, and you all used my card without so much as asking. That's your idea of a little?" Mom's voice cracked. "Rachel, you know I didn't mean to." "No." I cut her off sharply. "You just assumed I'd never say no. You built your peace of mind on the fact that I wouldn't draw a line." Sienna took a step closer, her hands clenched into fists. "So what now? You want us to grovel? Get on our knees?" I walked over to the dining table, pulled a folder from the drawer, and dropped it in front of her. "No need to kneel," I said. "Just sign." Inside were the transfer documents for her pearl-colored SUV, the same one I'd co-signed for. "You've got 30 days to move it out of my name," I told her. "After that, I'm notifying the lender to freeze the account." Sienna's face went pale. "You can't be serious. I don't qualify for a loan on my own." "Not my problem anymore," I said. "I tried to help you. You took that help and twisted it into a leash." Then I turned to Mom. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime. Every streaming service you've ever used, canceled. Don't bother trying to log in tomorrow. I'll be resetting every password and disconnecting every device. Dad slammed his palm down on the table, voice raised. "So this is it? You're punishing your own family?" I stared at him, not blinking. "No," I said. "This isn't punishment. It's liberation." "It's not punishment," I said, my voice low but unwavering. "It's liberation." I wasn't shouting. I didn't have to. The truth stood taller than any scream ever could. "It's not that I don't love you," I added, locking eyes with each of them. "I just won't let myself be used anymore." The room fell still, heavier than silence, the kind of hush that lingers right before something breaks. For a brief moment, I thought Mom might say something in apology, a flicker of remorse, anything. But all she offered was a whisper through quiet tears. "You'll regret this." She didn't plead, didn't fight, just whispered like she already believed she was losing something she had no right to hold. Family isn't something you can switch on and off like a light. I nodded gently. No, but self-respect is. And today, I turned it on. Sienna was the first to leave. She didn't say a word. She just brushed past me, clipped her shoulder against the doorframe, and let the slam behind her speak all her rage. Mom followed next, her eyes red, raw, still avoiding mine like I was a stranger. She didn't even glance back. Dad lingered. He stood in the doorway, one hand on the knob, like he was waiting for me to stop him. Then he shook his head. "You're pushing everyone away, Rachel," he muttered. "When the day comes that you need someone, no one's going to be there." I stepped forward and gently closed the door behind him. Then I locked it. Quietly. Firmly. Click. No more guilt. No more answering bells like I was on call 24/7 for the family unit. No more burden dressed up as filial duty. The three of them left my apartment like a passing storm, loud, sudden, but ultimately powerless. And then came the silence. No calls, no texts. No, "we need to talk" subject lines in my inbox. Nothing. And strangely, it didn't feel empty. It felt freeing, like I had just vacuumed years of dust from my soul and could finally breathe. For the first time in my adult life, my home didn't feel like a waiting room. It felt like mine. No background noise of judgment, no invisible weight of unpaid emotional debts. Just peace. 3 days after the confrontation, I opened Instagram to post a photo of the latte I'd made that morning, frothy, cinnamon-sprinkled, perfectly imperfect. Right at the top of my feed was Sienna's story, black background, white text, her signature passive-aggressive aesthetic. "Some people leave you when you need them most, but God sees everything. Karma's real." Family betrayal? I didn't like it, didn't reply, didn't need to. I took a screenshot, like filing away an old receipt, then closed the app, like tossing a useless bill into a fire. I was done justifying, done explaining. I didn't owe anyone a single line of emotional translation anymore. 2 days later, something unexpected landed in my inbox, an email. Subject, "just wanted to say thank you." From Kelly Heartworks, ogmail.com, Kelly, Ben's wife, my cousin's partner, someone I hadn't spoken to in over 3 years. The last time I saw her was at their wedding. She was always gentle, always observant, like someone watching the chaos from a safe distance, quietly collecting truth. "Rachel, I know this might be surprising. I was at the Easter gathering. I saw everything from the moment your mom shut the door on you to when Sienna called you names. I just wanted to say thank you. No one in this family has ever drawn the line. No one's ever dared to say, that's enough. I always thought staying silent was the strong thing. But you made me realize it's not grace. It's self-erasure. You didn't deserve any of that. I hope you're okay." Kelly, I sat at my desk, just staring at the screen. Not crying, not angry, just still. Like something deep inside me had finally been seen, not by blood, but by someone who watched. Someone who understood. Someone who didn't treat my worth like a utility meter. I typed my response slowly, letting each word find its place. "Thank you, Kelly. I'm better than I've been in years." Your message. It was the first thing in a long time that made me feel like I'm not alone. I used to think silence was the end, but maybe it's actually the beginning. I hit send. The email closed, but something inside me opened. I finally realized something I'd never dared say out loud. Some relationships don't deserve to be carried forever. Some voices, no matter how loud or familiar, only pull you further from your own. My family can believe I betrayed them. They can call me selfish, ungrateful, cold. I know the truth. And now, I no longer need to prove it. I spent the next few hours decluttering my space, canceled every lingering autopay, removed unknown devices from my Netflix account, changed every password. This apartment used to be just a place I came back to after work. Now, it was something more. It was mine. That night, I didn't turn off my phone out of anger. I turned it off out of peace. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting on a call, a text, or someone's forgiveness. I had finally learned to give it to myself. After years of feeling like the only lifeboat in a family drowning in demands and blame, I had finally come up for air. I no longer flinched when the phone rang. There was no more tightness in my chest when a bank notification popped up. No more late-night math trying to figure out how to survive after sending off another electric bill for a house I wasn't welcome in. Instead, I woke up in a quiet, sunlit apartment. No one blaming me. No one waiting for me to open my wallet. No one calling me selfish for having boundaries. For the first time in a long, long time, I started living. The first thing I did was buy a second-hand nylon string guitar off Craigslist. Warm tone, clean. Still had a little sticker on the side that read, "Easy to learn." It had been sitting in the corner of my living room for months, more decoration than instrument, but now it was the first sound I heard each morning. My fingers, still clumsy, pressed C, then D, then G. Each note that rang out felt like a shackle breaking gently, quietly. There was no one yelling from the next room, no one mocking my progress, no one demanding silence, just me, the sound, and the freedom of finally taking up space in my own life. Not long after, I signed up for a weekend photography class at the local community center, beginner level. The first time I held a real camera in over 10 years, my heart raced like I was doing something rebellious, like I was skipping work to chase sunlight. I started taking pictures of everything, a rusty fence behind a parking lot, the way morning light danced through a glass of iced tea, a single dandelion growing from a crack in the sidewalk. Each click of the shutter felt like a declaration. I exist, and I don't need anyone's permission to say so. One day after class, I bumped into someone unexpected, Melissa, an old college classmate, once my best friend. We'd drifted over the years. I had always been too busy holding my family together. She spotted me first in a tiny cafe tucked away in Old Town. "Rachel, is that really you?" she said, eyes wide, a genuine smile on her face. "You look lighter." We talked for hours, laughed until it hurt, traded memories like old postcards. The nights cramming for finals in the library, secret weekend road trips. The time I told a joke so dumb we nearly cried from laughing. Eventually, I told her everything. No sugar-coating, no embellishments. Just the truth, as raw and real as a photograph before it's edited. She didn't interrupt. She didn't offer pity. She just reached across the table, squeezed my hand, and said, "You're braver than anyone I've ever known." Her words didn't heal everything, but they loosened the ice around my chest. They made me feel seen. After that, I started writing again. At first, it was just scattered thoughts in a journal. Then came short stories, tales about women wandering through nameless cities, about wounds that didn't bleed, but ached like old bones in the rain. No one judged. No one told me to make them lighter or happier. I wrote for the girl named Rachel. The one who had spent so many years being the voice for everyone else's needs, she'd forgotten her own. This week, I've got dinner plans with some friends from the photography class. Next weekend, I'll go to the book fair in Willowport. And tonight? I'll make myself a mug of hot chocolate, curl up on the couch, and reread those first shaky stories, not to edit, but to honor every word I once dared to say. Someone once asked me, "Is silence worth it if it means you have no family?" I used to think the answer was no, but now I know silence isn't rejection. It's a gift I gave myself, after years of living in everyone else's noise. I'm not a victim anymore. I'm not anyone's emergency fund, or emotional sponge, or sacrificial lamb. I'm not defined by how many bills I've paid. I'm Rachel, 28 years old, living in my own small apartment, learning guitar, learning photography, writing stories, and for the first time smiling because I want to, not because someone else needs me to. That evening, after I got home from class, I noticed something taped to my apartment door. The hallway was bathed in that soft yellow light it always had at dusk. It was a thin, white envelope, loosely secured with a strip of clear tape. No delivery person in sight. No name on the return. Just one line written in handwriting I'd known since I was 6, from Mom. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I set my camera down, poured myself a glass of cold water, sat on the sofa. It wasn't until the sky outside turned navy and the city lights began to stretch long shadows across my walls that I finally unfolded the letter creased in 3 perfect folds. That's how the letter started. Written in Mom's familiar handwriting, slanted slightly to the left, like it always had been since I was a child learning cursive by copying hers. I don't even know if you'll read this, Rachel, but I want you to remember no matter how angry you are, no matter how far you choose to go, you are still my daughter. Even if you forget that I never will, I've made mistakes. Maybe I leaned on you too much. Maybe I should have stepped in when Sienna said things that hurt. I'm not perfect, but I love you. Your father, he doesn't understand everything. And Sienna, she's still young. She doesn't know how to express herself. But deep down, I believe she knows how important you are. The house hasn't felt right since you left. The water line broke. The Wi-Fi went out. Everything's been chaos. But it's not just the services we lost. It's you. You're still my child, no matter what, whether you forgive us or not, Mom. I folded the letter and set it on the coffee table. Then I sat there, still. No tears, not a single drop. No rage, no guilt, no flicker of that old pull I used to feel any time Mom said something halfway kind. What I felt was peace. I used to believe I'd collapse the moment she said, "I love you," that hearing those words would unlock something in me or fix the ache that had grown over years of neglect. But now, I read them like a train schedule from a town I no longer lived in. It came too late. It no longer mattered. Because I was no longer standing at that platform. I didn't need that letter to validate my existence. Didn't need an apology to feel real. Didn't need overdue love to prove I was worthy. I had already made peace with the truth. I wasn't the silent daughter anymore. I wasn't the ATM. I wasn't the emotional sponge for a family that only kept me around when it was convenient. I lit a scented candle by the window, cinnamon and vanilla, my favorite, and let the warmth spread across the apartment. I picked up my guitar, played the soft acoustic piece I'd just finished learning, not because anyone asked me to, not to impress, not to please, just because it made me feel full. I looked into the mirror not with doubt or anxiety, but with clarity. I no longer lived as my mother's daughter. I lived as the author of my own life. They could call me ungrateful. They could twist the truth into any version that made them feel better. I didn't care, because for the first time in years, I wasn't the extra in a play called The Perfect Family. I was the lead in a new story, Rachel. The woman strong enough to rise, walk away, and never look back. From Rachel's story, I finally understood something many of us learn the hard way. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't forgiving. It's walking away from relationships that drained us, from people who only valued our presence when it came with a price tag, from a definition of family that never included real love or respect. Because family doesn't always mean unconditional love. Sometimes choosing your own peace means saying enough. Sometimes setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's survival. Survival for a soul that's been too tired from loving and enduring all at once. What do you think about Rachel's decision? Was she too harsh? Or was it exactly what she needed to finally live? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, true stories about love, loss, and finding your voice when it matters most.